You can close your eyes if you'd like, or keep them softly open. Either way is fine. This is a space where learning feels easy, where pressure melts away, where your brain can do what it already knows how to do. Take a breath, a slow one. Let it out gently. You're here to learn something simple, that learning itself can be simple. The ideas you'll hear tonight aren't complicated. They're quiet truths about how your mind naturally absorbs new skills, how it grows, how it remembers. You don't need to memorize anything. You don't need to take notes. You don't even need to stay awake. Your brain is listening, even when you drift, even when you rest. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin. Learning feels hard when we make it hard. We pile on expectations, we demand perfection, we compare ourselves to others and feel small. But here's what's true. Your brain already knows how to learn. It's been doing it since you were born. You learn to walk, to talk, to recognize faces, to feel emotions, all without a single lesson plan. The problem isn't your capacity, it's the pressure you're carrying. So let's start there. Let's put that weight down. Define what good enough really means. Before you learn anything, ask yourself, what would good enough look like? Not mastery, not perfection, just good enough. Good enough to enjoy it, good enough to use it, good enough to feel satisfied. When you set a clear, simple goal, your brain knows where to go. It knows what to notice, and more importantly, it knows what to ignore. This is freeing. This is how learning becomes faster. You don't need to absorb everything. You only need to absorb what matters to you. So right now, if there's something you've been wanting to learn, imagine it. Picture yourself doing it at a level that would make you smile. Not the best in the world, just good enough for you. That's your destination, and it's closer than you think. Learning improves when pressure is removed. Your brain is sensitive to safety. When it feels threatened by judgment, by failure, by time pressure, it becomes rigid, defensive, it closes down. But when it feels safe, something beautiful happens. It becomes flexible, curious, open. This is why children learn so quickly. They haven't learned to be afraid yet. You can return to that state, not by pretending to be fearless, but by removing the things that create fear. Lower the stakes, soften the deadlines, stop measuring yourself against others. When your brain feels safe, it learns twice as fast. Letting go of comparison protects learning speed. Right now, someone somewhere is better than you at the thing you want to learn. This is always true, and it doesn't matter. Comparison is a trap. It pulls your attention outward when learning requires you to look inward. Your brain learns best when it's focused on its own progress, its own sensations, its own small victories. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, you lose a little bit of energy, a little bit of focus. So let them go. Let the experts be experts. Let the prodigies be prodigies. You're not racing them, you're walking your own path, and on that path, you're exactly where you need to be. Everything complex is just a collection of simple things. A song is just notes, a conversation is just words, a painting is just brushstrokes. When something feels overwhelming, it's usually because you're looking at it whole instead of seeing the pieces. But you can change that. You can break it down. Break the skill into small, gentle pieces. Imagine you're learning to play a song on the piano. You don't learn the whole song at once. You learn one hand first, then the other, then you put them together, slowly. This isn't just strategy, it's kindness. When you practice one small piece at a time, your nervous system stays calm. It doesn't get flooded. It can pay attention. And in that attention, learning happens naturally. Small pieces create small wins. Small wins build confidence. Confidence makes the next piece easier. This is the gentle rhythm of real progress. Identify the few parts that matter most. Not every piece is equally important. If you're learning a language, some words get used every day, others maybe once a year. If you're learning to cook, some techniques show up in dozens of recipes, others are specialty moves. This is the 80-20 principle. 20% of what you learn will give you 80% of the results. So start there. Start with the pieces that matter most. This keeps learning efficient, it keeps it light, and it keeps you moving forward without feeling buried. Consistency matters more than intensity. You don't need to practice for hours. In fact, long, exhausting sessions often work against you. They drain your energy. They build resentment. What works better is this: small amounts, repeated often. 10 minutes a day beats 2 hours once a week, every time. Because learning isn't about forcing your brain to change. It's about giving your brain enough gentle exposure that change happens on its own. Consistency is a signal. It says, "This matters. Pay attention. Remember this." And your brain listens. Let's talk about what's happening inside you. Your brain isn't a computer. It doesn't store files. It doesn't run programs. It's more like a garden, and learning is like planting seeds. Your brain continues learning after you stop practicing. Here's something wonderful. Learning doesn't end when you put the book down. When you practice something, you create tiny electrical patterns in your brain, connections between neurons, pathways. But those pathways don't solidify right away. They're soft, malleable. It's only later, when you rest, that they harden, that they become permanent. This happens during sleep, during quiet moments, during the spaces between practice sessions. So when you step away from learning, you're not stopping. You're letting the second half of the process unfold. Your brain is working even when you're not. Sleep organizes what you learned during the day. While you sleep, your brain is busy. It's replaying the things you practiced, sorting through memories, deciding what to keep and what to let go. It strengthens the connections you used most. It prunes away the ones you didn't need. This is why things sometimes feel easier the next day, why a problem you couldn't solve suddenly becomes clear. You didn't get smarter overnight, you just gave your brain time to organize. So if you're learning something new, protect your sleep. Honor it. It's not wasted time. It's where the real learning happens. Use spaced repetition to let memory deepen. If you practice something once and never return to it, it fades. But if you return to it tomorrow, and then 3 days later, and then a week later, something changes. Each time you revisit, the memory gets stronger, not through force, but through recognition. Your brain says, "Oh, this again. This must be important." And it builds the pathway a little deeper, a little more permanent. This is spaced repetition, and it's one of the most powerful tools you have. You don't need fancy software. You just need to come back, gently, regularly. Let time do the heavy lifting. Slow breathing improves memory formation. Right now, take a slow breath in. Hold it for just a moment. Now let it out even slower than you took it in. Notice how that feels. Deep, steady breathing doesn't just calm you down, it changes your brain chemistry. It increases oxygen flow. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It tells your body, we're safe. We can focus. When your breathing is slow, your memory works better. Your attention sharpens. Your thoughts clear. So if you're about to practice something, start with your breath. 3 deep cycles, slow and steady. It's a small thing, but it prepares your whole system for learning. Familiar environments speed early learning. Your brain is always scanning for threats. It's an old system, a survival mechanism, and it doesn't turn off just because you're sitting down to learn guitar. But here's the thing, when you're in a familiar place, your brain relaxes. It recognizes the space. It feels safe. And when it feels safe, it can allocate more energy to learning instead of scanning. This is why it's easier to learn something new in your own home than in a crowded, unfamiliar room. So if you're just starting out, practice somewhere comfortable, somewhere you feel at ease. Later, once the skill is more solid, you can take it anywhere. But in the beginning, let your environment support you. Part 4. The practice itself. Now we come to the heart of it, the practice itself. This is where theory meets action, where ideas become skills, and it can be simpler than you think. Use realistic practice from the beginning. Imagine you're learning to have conversations in a new language. You could spend months studying grammar, memorizing verb tables, drilling pronunciation in isolation. Or you could start having simple conversations right away. Messy ones, imperfect ones. The second path is faster, because your brain learns best when practice feels like the real thing. If you want to play music for others, practice playing for others, even if it's just one friend. If you want to write things people might actually read. If you want to cook, make real meals. The closer your practice is to reality, the less your brain has to translate later. You're not building a skill in a lab, you're building it in the world. Emphasize relaxed repetition early on. In the beginning, don't worry about doing it perfectly. Worry about doing it enough times that it starts to feel familiar. Speed matters more than precision at first. Quantity builds intuition. Think of a child learning to speak. They don't get every word right. They don't worry about grammar. They just talk over and over, and slowly it smooths out. You can do the same. Give yourself permission to be clumsy, to make mistakes, to repeat the same simple thing 50 times. Perfection comes later. Comfort comes first. Practice just beyond your comfort zone. Learning happens at an edge. Too easy, and your brain gets bored. It doesn't bother strengthening anything. Too hard, and your brain gets overwhelmed. It shuts down. It stops absorbing. But right in between, there's a sweet spot. Things feel slightly challenging. You're making small mistakes, but you can correct them. You're stretching, but not straining. This is where growth lives. So pay attention to how you feel during practice. If it's too comfortable, add a little complexity. If it's too stressful, simplify. You're looking for the place where you're awake but not anxious, engaged but not exhausted. That's your edge. Use deliberate, focused practice. Short, focused sessions are more powerful than long, distracted ones. 15 minutes of full attention beats an hour of half-hearted effort.
Deliberate practice means this: you pick one specific thing to work on, one weakness, one piece, and you give it your full presence, not multitasking, not thinking about other things, just this. When your attention is whole, learning happens fast. And here's the relief: you don't need to do this for hours. 20 minutes is often enough, even 10. Your brain doesn't need endless time, it needs quality time. So practice in short bursts, fully present, then step away. This respects your energy, and it works.
Get quick, simple feedback. Feedback doesn't need to be harsh. It doesn't need to come from an expert. It just needs to show you what's actually happening. Sometimes feedback is a recording. You play something back and hear what you really sound like. Sometimes it's a checklist. Did I do the steps? Yes or no? Sometimes it's just comparison. You watch someone else do it, then you try, and you notice the difference. The key is speed. The faster you get feedback, the faster you can adjust, because your brain is always making predictions, and when those predictions are wrong, it updates. That's learning. So don't wait weeks for someone to grade you. Find small, immediate ways to see how you're doing. Gentle signals, quiet corrections. That's all you need.
Part 5. Making it easy. The easier it is to start, the more often you'll practice. This sounds obvious, but most people ignore it. They rely on willpower, on motivation, on forcing themselves. But there's a simpler way. Remove friction and make practice easy to start. Imagine you want to practice drawing every day. If your sketchbook is buried in a closet and your pencils are scattered in different rooms, you're adding friction. Every time you want to practice, you have to hunt, you have to prepare, you have to make decisions. And each little barrier makes it less likely you'll start. But if your sketchbook is sitting on your desk, open, with a pencil right next to it, you'll draw more. It's not about discipline, it's about design. Make it so easy to start that you almost can't help yourself. Prepare your tools the night before. Remove decisions. Clear the path. When practice feels easy to begin, consistency happens naturally. Commit to a realistic amount of time. Here's something that might surprise you. You don't need thousands of hours to get good at something. You need about 20 hours of focused, intentional practice. That's enough to go from knowing nothing to feeling competent, to enjoying it, to using it in your life. 20 hours sounds manageable, doesn't it? That's 30 minutes a day for 6 weeks. Knowing this changes everything, because you stop thinking, "I'll never have enough time," and you start thinking, "I can do this." So pick something, commit to 20 hours, and watch what happens. The pressure lifts. The path clears. You begin. Part 6. The Quiet Truths. We're almost done, but before we finish, let's revisit some quiet truths. Things you might already know but have forgotten. Things worth hearing again. Relaxed attention beats forced concentration. You've probably noticed this. When you try too hard to focus, you can't. Your mind fights back. It drifts. It resists. But when you're interested, when you're curious, when you're relaxed, attention comes naturally. A calm, interested mind absorbs information twice as fast as a tense, effortful one. So stop trying to force it. Stop gripping so tightly. Instead, find the part that's interesting, the part that makes you curious. Let your attention follow that, gently, naturally. That's where real learning lives. Gentle curiosity accelerates understanding. Children learn fast because they're curious. They ask endless questions. They explore without fear. you can return to that. Not by pretending to be a child, but by allowing yourself to wonder, to be genuinely interested. When you approach something with curiosity instead of urgency, your brain opens up. It stops defending. It stops performing. It just explores. And in that exploration, understanding blooms. So next time you practice, try this. Ask questions, wonder aloud, play with the material. Don't just try to get it right, try to understand why. Try to see what happens if you change something. Curiosity is a shortcut. It makes everything faster.
Confidence grows from repetition, not talent. You don't need to be naturally gifted. You don't need to be special or chosen or talented. You just need to show up repeatedly. Because here's what happens. Every time you practice something, your brain registers it as familiar, and familiar feels safe, and safe feels confident. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build slowly through repetition. So if you don't feel confident yet, that's okay. You're just early in the process. Keep going. Keep returning. And one day, without even noticing, you'll realize you're not afraid anymore. You'll just do the thing. That's confidence, and it's available to you. Closing. The practice of reset. We've talked about a lot tonight. How to make learning easier, how to remove pressure, how to let your brain do what it already knows how to do. But the most important thing might be this: learning happens in rest as much as in action. So as you drift off now, know that you're not done. You're just beginning the second half. Your brain will continue working, sorting, organizing, strengthening. When you wake up tomorrow, something will be different. You won't be able to name it, but you'll feel it. A little more clarity, a little more confidence, a little more openness. That's how learning works, quietly, gently, over time.